Are you a product manager dreaming of exploring new horizons? Wondering how you can strike the perfect balance between your professional ambitions and personal fulfillment in a new city or a new country? Look no further, we've got you covered. This Relocation Ask Me Anything webinar will feature three leaguers sharing their relocation experiences and stories with you. Join us on this exciting journey as we uncover the secrets to successfully relocating as a product manager. By the way, I'm Maria Cassis, founder and general manager of Product League, and we help you to become the best product manager you can be. Product League is an international mentoring program for product managers by product managers in 30 countries around the world, from France to Argentina, from the United States to Jordan, and everywhere in between. Whether you're yearning for the bustling streets of San Francisco, the vibrant startup scene of London, or the exotic charms of Dubai, we will help you to navigate the challenges of relocation, finding your professional groove, and crafting a lifestyle that brings you joy and fulfillment. So go ahead, introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know what gets you inspired so you'll get insights and embark on a transformative journey that will not only enhance your career, but also enrich your life in an unimaginable way. Lights, cameras, action. Let's dive into the world of relocations for product managers. Streaming starts now. Let's meet our panelists for today. The panelists on our panel today span 3 continents. Pamela Zoni, product manager at Adobe and 3 times Product League alumna, is joining us from London. Gilad Turban, manager product management at Meta and 3 times Product League mentor, is joining us from San Francisco. And Andrew Taylor, product manager at Majid Al Futtaim and Product League alumnus, joining us from Dubai. What's up, guys? Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
How are you today? My fellow
Good
leaguers
morning.
here. So happy to have you on board. Pamela, Andrew, Gilad, how are you today?
Very good.
I'm great.
Doing well, thank you.
Waking
Good,
up.
ready and well. This is the spirit to do it today. We're going to discuss relocation, especially for product managers. We're going to talk how to make both work and life work for you, career and life work for you when we're discussing relocation for product managers, because, this is like an amazing opportunity, to relocate as a product manager, but there are so many underlying meanings to it, like so many things that go into the actual relocation and work as a product manager. And you, Magnificent 3, are here to help me with providing all the answers to all the questions that our audience have. So thank you so much for joining us. We have a list of great, and I mean it, great questions submitted by the audience before and on the registration part, when we ask them to tell us what is it that on your mind and heart when it comes to relocation as product managers and making both career and life work for you. So we have these questions, but we don't stop there, because we also want to allow the audience to ask questions live. This is a live session. So please go ahead, everyone in the audience. And now, first, introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what is it you do, and let us know what is your question when it comes to relocation. These awesome guys here are here simply to answer your questions, and this is not something that happens every day. So please use this opportunity and act on it. So this was my short intro. We are about to start. Let me know, guys. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And we are starting with you, Pamela. This question comes from Sophia, and she's asking, are there indicators of successful relocations where both work and life thrive? Where does work-life balance go wrong? So what are the indicators when something goes well, and how can we recognize when things are off balance?
I can speak from personal experience. Definitely look for a role that aligns with your core value and your passion, but also keep in mind of the location, what's life beyond work. The cultural shock, especially if you move to a new country, might be quite hard at the start. If you look to do, for example, sports outdoor and you move to England, that might be a challenge. So check out also these things, because that makes half of your life is outside work, right? So keep that in mind. And for me, I think that, especially in the beginning, I actually have an oversight was looking into like a support system. I was very focused and very like driven into like career, and one job role after another. And I just kind of maybe step back in terms of maybe enjoying life and just enjoy the new city and find a sort of support system that is where you actually go when you have a great like promotion, where you go if you don't actually make friends and you have that support system. So yeah, I will say definitely the location, and as well like spend time in investing in the support system.
Absolutely. I love that. I love this answer. And we are now moving on to the second question. And this one is a special one because this one goes to all of you. It comes from Ida, and she is asking, what can I do to determine whether a specific opening matches my career goals? So Ida's question is about the make relocation work for you on the actual work and career aspect of things. And she's asking, how can I know from the beginning, okay, from the browsing part, when something is going to work well for me? Gilad, I'm sure you've got a really good answer.
I have the best PM answer ever. It depends.
Depends.
Uh,
I knew
yeah.
it. I should have
There's
seen
never-
this one coming.
Yeah, it is a PM answer. Look, there's never going to be something that's going to be perfect, right? There are ups and downs to everything. So, what you really need to look at is the combination of your personal life and your long-term career aspirations. Whatever position you choose, when you think about your career, you're not choosing the position just for the sake of, oh, this is a cool position for myself right now. That's not why you go on a relocation. That's why you pick a job when you're early on in your career and you don't yet know what you really want to do long term. When you're going on a relocation, you need to be a little more strategic. So no, we're not thinking about 17 jobs out, but we are thinking, will this set me up for success or give me brand new skills that I couldn't have anywhere else, or allow me to experience new experiences that I couldn't experience anywhere else? And if those boxes are checked, then you also need to look at the family related side. So whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you have kids, these questions have different answers, but you've got to make sure that the relocation for that specific destination is also something that could fit with you and your family's life, and also how your family is structured right now. So in terms of infrastructure in that new place, in terms of closeness to your home country, in terms of the network you will have there or already have there. So those would be pieces that I would say are critical to determine, but in that order.
I love that. So you're actually covering here two methods or rules of product management. The first one is it depends. And the second one, as you said, it's not just about today, it's not just about the short term, it's also about the long term. Love that. Thank you very much, Gilad. Andrew?
Yeah, I think a big, just to echo onto that, I think a big thing when I was looking to relocate is essentially looking to the future. So saying, could I see myself working for this company in 10 years? Does it have the right career trajectory for me? Will I learn the right skills? Will I be with the right people, working with the right people, learning from them? I think as product managers, we're always constantly looking to learn and be in that sort of environment. So that's a really key thing that I was looking at when I was looking to relocate.
Perfect. Love that. Thank you very much, Andrew, for sharing your thoughts about the subject. And last but not least, Pamela.
I'm going to be controversial and say sometimes you might accept a role just because it's the first step. So when I came to London, I just accept really any role. My goal here in terms of success was just getting into the country, getting into the groove, learn the culture, and then move on from there. So it can be depending. If you're in your 20s, you might just want to move to a country just to sample the culture and see if it's for you. And it might also well be that you don't find what you're looking for. I had many friends that moved back from London to Italy. And to me, I don't think is nothing negative, it's not failure. You just learn, grow, and you realize that wasn't you.
I love that. So if to use like product management,
nothing negative.
I'm sorry. You disappeared for 1 second, and I thought that you finished your sentence. So I apologize for that. If to summarize or put a product management analogy to what you were saying, Pamela, what you're saying is that don't be afraid of a POC. Don't be afraid of the proof of concept of relocation when you're just making the move, checking it out, see how you react to that, see how people react to you, see how things are actually going on, and then follow up with the new information that you have. You can make maybe a different decision this way or another way.
The market fit might be in another market.
Absolutely. Gilad, I see that you have something to add, and I'm eager to hear it.
Yeah, no, I want to tack on to that. I actually don't think it's a controversial approach. I think it's a very smart approach, but I think it fits directly within what we said before. You've got to be a little more deliberate in those decisions. It doesn't mean that that position is going to be the be all end all. It just means that you've got to have a reason for going on that relocation. If it's exploring a new market and seeing whether you're a fit for that market, great. That's a very good reason, but it's got to be within what Andy said, which is long-term planning. And you're testing the waters. That's a part of long-term planning, and it's got to be about you being deliberate and having a reason why to do it. But I think it's a great approach. And hey, I did that. I went to business school because I wanted to go into the U.S. market. That was one of the main reasons I did that. So absolutely, I think it's a great approach and something that everybody should consider. Make sure you have reasons beyond, oh, this could be cool. That is not, it is a reason, but it's not a good enough reason to go to the other side of the world.
Absolutely. And Gilad, you just mentioned like a little bit of your story as for relocation. So how about you guys will share in just a sentence or two somewhat of your experience with relocation, so the audience here will have a better background and understanding of who you are. Gilad, should you start?
Sure. So I've been in the US now for almost 11 years, but I moved to the US for business school. I went to Kellogg in Chicago. I decided to downgrade my weather and then slowly upgrade it back. So I went Chicago, Seattle, and now the Bay Area. And yeah, I mainly knew that I'm interested in pursuing product management as a career path. I knew that before going to business school. And I thought it's really important for me to be more well-rounded. And if you look at the typical Venn diagram for PMs, the one that says technology, user experience, and business, I knew that I had strengths on the technology and the user experience side. And I knew that many of the customers are in the US, and I wanted to see how to round out the business side of my life and also get into the US market. So I'll have that as an option. So business school was the right path for me. It allowed me to round that out and then enter the market with a lot of other folks and learn how to do it in a slightly easier way, yet a little more expensive. A tad.
I love that. Thank you very much, Gilad. So Israel to the United States, and we're moving to you, Andrew, from the UK to Dubai.
Yeah, so I've been at Dubai now for 5 years. It's really flown by. So I was an expat baby, so I was well versed with kind of traveling the globe, and I did a lot of traveling in university as well. And I got into my career and knew that I kind of wanted to relocate somewhere, but I wasn't quite sure where. And the Middle East was something that I really wanted to get involved with culturally. And I thought as well I would learn a lot as a product manager and really grow my career. Dubai is turning into a super fast-paced place to work now. There's so many new startups and there's loads of product events going on as well now. So it turned out to be a great career move for myself, and I have learned loads as well, which has been great.
So happy to hear that, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Andrew. Pamela, Italy and London.
And London, yeah. So I remember 14 years ago, I went to London for a week and I said, that's not for me. A year later, I decided to actually move permanently. I just wanted to see what was tasting the water, see what was the opportunity there. I actually come from marketing. Back then, I was actually working in the marketing space, which is way more advanced in UK than was in Italy. And then I was like, let's see how I go. I want to improve my English and see how things go. And then since then, I've been living in London for 13 years.
Amazing, amazing, fantastic, guys. And talking about weather. So, Gilad, you mentioned moving from sunny Tel Aviv to, well, first Chicago, and then from the cold, bringing the temperature up, moving to San Francisco, Seattle, San Francisco. Andrew, you moved from cold UK to sunny, sandy Dubai, and Pamela, you actually switched from sunny, wonderful beaches to London.
Why?
But I'm sure you had really good reasons for that. Really, really good reasons for that. As you just share with us. Guys, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and stories with us. And Diego is waiting for you to answer his question. And his question goes again to all of you. And he is asking, can you tell me what criteria to use to determine whether an opening aligns with my lifestyle and work-life expectations? So it's not just about the one, it's about the two. Okay, it's about the whole experience as a product manager, both career and life. Andrew, I really want to know what you have to answer, Diego.
Yeah, I think kind of post-COVID as well, everything has really changed. So I know the flexibility to kind of work from home is a big thing. I'm seeing as well a lot of people just relocating, not to work for a company, but to work online. So I think a big thing is the flexibility of, what you want personally out of a company as well. And then what I did as well was benchmarking against companies that I'd previously been really happy with and kind of looking at why was I really happy with those companies and what core values did I really like in that company. And then that gave me a good indication of whether that company was something that I was interested or not. And then in terms of lifestyle, again, that kind of comes down to research, really. It wasn't really too much of a hard move to go from cold and wet Manchester to sunny Dubai, but looking as well at kind of like the support system, like Pamela was saying, around you and how you would create that. So I'm a big sports guy, so I was already looking before I even moved. Is there kind of a big sports community in Dubai? Dubai gets very hot in the summer. Do people still play sports in the summer? Because I was looking to move at the peak of summer where it's sometimes 50 degrees outside. So those sort of things and research around that is really what I did and what I would say for people to do as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. Pamela?
I mean, I echo what Andrew say about flexible work. Everyone now works hybrid, which is a really good plus. With that comes also, sometimes you might be in your home for a very long time, so you need to make sure you have that support system. You have someone to see after work, otherwise you can get insane. And the other thing is if you can get like some sort of flexibility, because the other thing that we didn't discuss is what happened when you are on holiday, you want to go and see your family, right? A plus will be, can they allow you to work from your hometown for a couple of weeks? I'm actually calling from Italy today. I went on holiday last week with my family and then spent an extra week working remotely. So that is always like when you look into, can I also have an extension and maybe like actually work from home from my family and maybe actually take a vacation elsewhere? So that is something as well to keep in mind if there is a plus there, hybrid working.
Absolutely. Thank you for highlighting this aspect, Pamela and Gilad.
Yeah, so first of all, I'll just tack on to what Andy said. Yeah, 50 degrees Celsius in the summer for the Americans on the call, I would say it's 102 hot. As in, it's way north of 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and just too hot. So well done, mate. I for surviving that. It makes Tel Aviv seem mild in the summer. No, but going back to the question, look, I think it's important to think about what does it mean from a time zone perspective as well. I think it's something that people tend to underestimate. when you work at a company that's global, so I had the pleasure of working with both Israel at some point in my career and then working with India for a very long time. And the time zone difference is something that you have to factor in. If you're going to be on calls with the other side of the world 5 days a week, you need to be aware of that because it means that it'll have an effect on your personal life as well. So, time zone, factor that in, take that into account. The other thing is you've got to learn a little more about the company's culture when you're going for a relocation in the specific location culture. So I'll pick on Israel and the US for 1 second. Um, Israelis tend to work longer hours, and given the Israel's geographic location, Israelis tend to know that you work evenings. When you're on the West Coast, you don't work evenings unless you work with India because there's nobody else that's up usually. And evenings are usually for catch up or for talking to India. That's something to bear in mind. But there's also a big difference between, let's say, Italy or Spain, where people tend to work until later in the evening and maybe start later in the day. In the US, you do start at, I don't know, somewhere between 8 and 9, and then many companies, the pencil drops at 5 p.m. So it does matter what country you go to, and then the company's culture, and whether it's an around the clock culture, whether it's a family friendly one, you should check that out online and learn from people who work at the company. So, best tip actually, go and find people who work for that company that come from your original culture. It'll give you a better indication of how is that going to fit with your own values or your own origin country.
I love that. I love what you mentioned, Gilad, and I wanted to add that it's also about like the rhythm at the place, okay, like the atmosphere, because one country to another, and sometimes even one city to another, can differ in the rhythm of the work, like how stressed out people are. Like if you say tomorrow or next week, does it really mean tomorrow or next week, or you have some extra time? Okay, like the little things that go into it. This is a big deal. And I love the fact that you mentioned a very practical tip on just reach out to people who made the move from your original geography, so they will have the better understanding of what is the transition that you are going to have. I love that. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. This one comes from Melanie. It goes to you, Andrew, so I hope that you're ready. And she is asking, I'm relocating to a country where I don't speak the language. What should I expect, and how should I deal with this challenge? Super practical, super important, to the point.
Yeah, so I think this is probably one of the biggest challenges, and this one is where you need to really do your due diligence, really, to understand not only in the office what is the main language, are you going to fit in that role, but also the thing that sometimes people forget is outside of work, because people in the office may speak your native tongue, but outside, then it becomes a logistical nightmare just to get a bus or order something from the streets as well. So I think that's something that people really need to kind of research before you move and make that step. But I would also kind of argue that you can treat it as an opportunity to learn the new language, right? I think I've been a little bit too blessed in Dubai because everyone speaks English, unfortunately, most of the time. But I have had friends and colleagues that have moved to France, for example, and now they speak fluent French, and I'm very jealous of them. So I'd say treat it as an opportunity to learn. And more so, even though my Arabic is not the best and I don't know that much, but when I first joined, I lent on co-workers to try and teach me a little bit of Arabic to get by. And that not only helped me create connections within the company and create a bit of a bond with the team, but it was something they found super fun, and it just kind of created that bond and was really useful, I thought.
That's lovely. So you're saying like this disadvantage can be turned into an opportunity to bond with your fellow team members, something to discuss, something to learn from. I really love this way of thinking of stuff. And I like the fact that you mentioned that it doesn't go only to the work aspect of relocation, because sometimes what I find in where consult or work with teams that don't speak English as their first language is that the work discussion is only in English, but then someone will tell something, just like on the way, like just, mentioning something, and that will be in whatever language that is spoken in that place. And on that moment, when I want like someone's super immediate, honest reaction, it won't happen in English, like you're mentioning with Arabic. But it really differs from one place to another, and using it as an opportunity to bond and grow is probably the best tip that we can give. So thank you very much, Andrew, for this one. Gilad, are you ready?
No. Yes, of course.
Of course I am ready. I'm a product manager. I'm ready for everything. Okay, fantastic. So this one comes from Julia. She's asking, I'm relocating in a month, and I will still have my dev team at my current and soon to be previous location. What are best tips from you for managing remote teams after you're relocating?
Perfect. So it's interesting. I think that the first thing is, since you already know the team, it is actually quite easier. One of the biggest challenges, so let me expand the question for 1 second. If you have a dev team that's located somewhere else than where you're going to be, there are two options. Either you have worked with them in the past face to face and now moved to a different location, or you haven't and you're now learning how to work with a remote team. Both cases are important, so I'll talk about both. If you have worked with them in the past and you already had the face-to-face interactions, I would very highly recommend you prep them. You actually give them a heads up of you moving and talk about how would you rather communicate, what's the cadence, so you can retain what you've already built. So setting expectations up front would be really, really important in this case. The other piece, so when you have not yet worked with the team, this is where face-to-face time actually matters. It is much easier. Well, we're human, so it makes us dehumanize other people if we've never met them in person, and you can blame them for something that they did or didn't do on the other side of the earth. Oh yeah, these guys from Timbuktu don't really understand what do I mean when I said this, therefore I'm not getting. Go out, meet them in person. When you have that in-person relationship, even if you just sat down for one dinner, suddenly they're actual people in your mind, and you have the ability to better understand how to communicate with them, how do they think, what do they need from you, and then you can do the expectation setting. So if you already know them, do the expectation setting of how you would communicate going forward. Oh, one more thing, make sure you tell them, hey, we don't know how this is going to work yet. Let us refine over time and let's be extra clear on the communication initially so we can make changes while we go at it. If you haven't met them, go meet them. We're in post-COVID, you can travel, go meet them so you can establish that in-person relationship and then do everything else I said.
Fantastic. I love that. And if the company where you work at doesn't realize or understand that you have to travel to that other site or agency or whatever it is that you're working with to meet the dev team, going back to one of the previous questions, this is a great indicator for a company where maybe this relocation opportunity won't be the best because they're missing on that factor or this human interaction factor where you get to know the people and build a team that goes behind the work that you provide. So this is a really, really interesting one. Gilad, thank you very much for that. Pamela, Manuel has a question to ask you. Now the question to ask you. Are you ready? Shall we do it?
Always. Do it.
Fantastic. So this one goes to you, and he's asking, as I move to a new city or country, I'll need to adapt to a new workplace culture and environment. How can I make the most of this adjustment period and get used to new colleagues, new processes, and new procedures?
Great question. I mean, when we used to be face to face, it was a bit easier. You'll be able to go to the office, observe. At this stage, because we're in a hybrid situation, I think it's essential that when you have the opportunity, try to go to the office as much as possible, especially at the start. But when you don't have the opportunity, start to schedule one-to-one with people. But with that, I don't mean just when you are in the onboarding phase, the first couple of months. That should be something that you keep doing and give yourself time. It might take even a year for you to get to understand, for example, if it's a big company like Adobe, you're really going to take you a very long time to understand what the process, what the politics, what are, who does what. So like try to get to know those people, and those people will introduce you to others. When I moved to London, for example, I realized how different was the work culture from Italy. One thing that I didn't spot at the beginning is everyone was going for drinks on a Friday. I used to, for example, just decline the invite. Big mistake, because in those opportunities you meet people that get to know you, and this is where you get the opportunity to get to know the ins and out and get to be, remembered. So, the culture is different. Try to spot those opportunities, get people to tell you. And as Gilad was saying, if you can get anybody that is from your own kind of like hometown, home culture, whatever that is, that can give you insight, they will probably fast track your learning and give you tips that are invaluable. What they learn, they share with you, and immediately you're going to be like a level up of what you need to do. The communication style will be very different. So, for example, now I work a lot with the US, and they don't really like very long email with very polite wording. They want to be straight to the point. Again, like try to get the hint, try to observe whatever people, other people do, the wording that they use, and try to see if you can adapt. You're working with the US, use some sort of like style. Work with the UK is very different. Work with Italy, and try to be kind of like being aware more than anything. Over time, you pick that up without knowing, but especially the beginning, it might make you the extra effort for you to just keep your eyes open. And the last thing I was going to say, try to be patient. It's all well and good try to put yourself with a lot of goal and things to do, but you need to be patient with yourself. As Andrew was saying, things will be really hard at the beginning, especially if you don't speak the native language of the new country very well, and you're going to be frustrated. So you're going to go through a lot of emotion in the same day, in the same hour. Just be patient. Things will take time, but you're gonna like when you are in the other side, you're gonna really appreciate the growth that you had, and of course the challenges. But without challenges, there's not going to be growth. So enjoy the ride.
Love that. Drop the mic here with enjoy the ride. Thank you very much, Pamela. And Andrew and Gilad, I get a feeling that you have something to add.
I do. So I think Pamela actually raised a really critical point when she was talking about the emails with a different country. If you were to tell somebody that comes from Israel that sentence about the US wanting things to be direct and to the point and short, they would tell you, "Are you effing kidding me right now?" Which goes to show that culture, so this is not me doing the research, there's a hugely successful and really important book for anybody who goes on relocation. It's called The Culture Map by Erin Mayer. I highly recommend reading it. One of the things she's talking about from a research perspective is that cultures come on scales, as in it's a scale, it's not an either or. And something that for one person from culture X can seem too direct, for a person from culture Y, it's too indirect. It's on a sliding scale. And there, I believe she researched 7 different ones. I can't remember all of them off the top of my mind, but I would highly recommend you read it and learn more about how direct or indirect and how context heavy or context light you can be. There's a bunch of different ones. So I would double down into that. I think that is really, really critical. And then I would go back to Pamela's first point and mention optimizing for connection. At the end of the day, we are all human. And the way to get things done in the world is by having strong connections with people and finding the ways to go and build those relationships and show vulnerability, as in share the fact that you're new to this culture, share the fact that you don't know, ask for help. Again, I'll be bookish. It's called the Franklin effect. When you ask people for help, they're much more likely to help you. And if you have a reason to ask for help, for instance, hey, I'm brand new in this culture. Can you tell me what I'm doing wrong, or how am I perceived, or how should I go about blah, 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 blah? That can very much help and build the connection such that people will be willing and want to help you. And suddenly you're no longer alone. So optimize for those.
I love that. Thank you very much, Gilad. Andrew.
Yeah, I think one of the key points that Pamela said as well was that missing on the Friday drinks, everyone going out. So I think putting yourself out there in those situations as much as possible in the initial stage really benefit the longer you go on to create those connections, essentially, because it's pretty exhausting at first, but putting yourself out there and making as many opportunities to make that connection or learn that new little bit of knowledge or anything like that, it really pays dividends further down the line. And I was really lucky at first because I made a good support group, which I think was key and is key when you make that relocation move. And then having that support group to help you is tremendous, even if it does get a little bit tiring eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It reminds me a project I was on in Italy, and on my first travel there, after lunch, we all had like really good espresso, and we had another meeting coming up. So I was like, rushing, drinking my espresso really, really fast, and because I didn't want it to be late to the meeting. And they were like, "What are you doing?" I don't want to be late. I don't want to insult the people in the room waiting for us. Yeah, but why would you like to insult the coffee and us? Drink your coffee pleasantly. They will wait. That's okay. And this is, to me, like a person who previously just worked in the United States and Israel, was like, what? This is like the biggest no-no. You are not late for a meeting. So sometimes coffee comes first. And this is a really good example on how to bond with the people you work with. So thank you very much, guys, for this one. The next question, this one comes from, not this one, this one. This one comes from Pablo. It goes to you, Andrew. And he's asking, a product manager must have a deep understanding of their local market. How can the product manager deal with this challenge when a new location has different consumer behavior, competitive landscape, regulations, and market conditions?
Yeah, so I think as a product manager, this is probably one of the biggest things job-wise that you need to research before you go in, because it's all going to be completely new and you need to essentially act like a sponge when you're there as well and just absorb everything, ask questions, but more importantly, listen to everyone. I found tools like social media is pretty key. So I found Reddit and Twitter, people are brutally honest. So you get a lot of brutally honest consumer feedback, and it also gives you a lot of insights. And the search functionality in both of them are super good. So Reddit, especially, I still use it day to day now to see within the region what people are saying, searching the app that I'm working on, see what people are saying. And I think using that information beforehand and then coming in and trying to learn as much as possible from your coworkers, your peers, is really the best way to kind of learn about it.
Learn. Always be in a growth learning mindset, and then you get to actually know the new destination with this culture and everything that comes with it, especially on the product management job. Yes, Gilad.
Quick add on. I think that this is one of the biggest advantages that you can have from a relocation, because we all make assumptions about our home country. We grew up in it. We know exactly what the rules are and what the laws are and everything. When I moved to the US, I suddenly learned about regulations that I had no idea existed, and that made me even ask the question of, oh, do I need to understand the local regulation? When I now work with a global company and suddenly there are labor laws that are very different from one country to the next, what can you do with employees here versus there versus, and that stuff you would never ever learn if you just stick to your home country. So assume that things are going to be different and ask what is different here or what's the characteristics of the local market. Never assume they're the same. It's actually one of the biggest mistakes that startups make, that, oh, it's the exact same thing. No. So go ask, and then it'll be a huge tool for you in your arsenal going forward, because you'll be able to ask those questions that nobody else that's just local can ever ask, because they'll never think to.
Understand that there's a difference, study, and always be open to learn something new, because probably you will learn that there are so many things you didn't even think about or you weren't aware of even. So I love that. Thank you very much for these answers. And the next one comes from Liam. It goes to you, Gilad. And Liam is asking, when moving to a foreign country with a different culture, what tips do you have for reading the room and learning the culture?
So one, I already said, Aaron Mayer, the culture map. Please read it. It's a must-have. Secondly, be vulnerable. Go and tell people. So in the room, especially during the first couple of meetings, say out loud, hey, I'm new here. I'm new in this culture. Please tell me if I'm doing something that's completely off the rocker. Please call me out. I'm trying to learn. And then find a couple of trusted advisors or a couple of trusted people that you can talk to later and get coaching. People who see you in the room and tell you what you're doing that's ill-perceived, what are you doing that works well. Now, notice this doesn't just have to do with words, it has to do with tone, posture of sitting. Like, I'll give it a very simple example. There was a meeting early on in my career where I sat like this. Well, this high back chair is too high, but this is very typical, right? You put your hand on the chair. In specific cultures, this portrays like you're extra comfortable, and if it's a top-heavy culture or a culture which the manager needs to feel like they're the biggest person in the room, then you're creating a problem for yourself by literally just sitting in that posture. So check all of these: posture, tone, when do you speak? Do you speak in a lengthy way? Do you speak in a too short a way? How kind do you need to be when you're saying, or how much of a preamble do you need to have? All of these things matter. So find those advisors, read the culture map, and then be upfront about you not knowing how you're perceived, but you're willing to learn and have people stop you.
Love that. And I love the stories that you shared. So it's quite an idea. Pamela and Andrew, can I ask you to share a funny story with us? A story about where you learn how to read a room in a different way, maybe something that has to do with cultural gap, because this story goes a long way in telling us about, what stands in the day-to-day of relocation. This is the day-to-day of relocation. Pam?
I don't know if it's like a funny story. I just think I'm doing a course at the moment at Adobe, which is around inclusivity. And we have like a small group, it's called Action Circle, and we try to understand each other's culture. And one thing that for me, I find very frustrating when people used to ask me at the first interaction is, where are you from? Because obviously they spot my accent and they find, I don't know, amusing to actually ask where I come from. But in the beginning, that used to be quite frustrating because I always felt, well, my English is not good enough. And then they obviously finish the sentence, say, oh, it's amazing that you speak English that well. And I always find it to be maybe disrespectful because I was assuming that my English wasn't great at the start. So speaking in the small group, there was my co-leader, actually, she's from Beirut, and she loved that question. So she actually loved people asking where you're from. So she got the opportunity to speak about her country, the culture, the food. And so I think for me, it's just kind of like having empathy and making sure that when you do ask the questionnaire in the room, you just be honest to people, and people can come back to you maybe on the private setting to tell you if you said something that was inappropriate, or some people might find offensive. I think going back to Gilad, just try to find a support group and people being honest with you. So then you can adapt your kind of like attitude and the way you speak to make sure that no one is offended and everyone is inclusive. It wasn't a fun story, but to me, it just opened my mind on my personal experience and others people's experience.
It wasn't a funny story, but it was a super important one, because the challenge of relocation or making a relocation work for that person is not just on the shoulders of the product manager who is now relocating to another country. It's on the whole company, it's on the team, it's on everyone who's surrounding this person. So your message was to everyone who may have a new colleague today or tomorrow, saying, if this person is relocating, keep this in mind, because not everything that you will find funny or amusing will actually be funny and amusing to this person you are now talking about. So this is a super important one. Thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you for that. Andrew?
Yeah, I think for mine, it's only a small one. Not sure if it's funny, but moving over to Dubai, I always thought I didn't really have an accent. So I'm from Manchester originally. I thought I'm pretty much speaking the Queen's English. Never been picked up on it before. But then as soon as I came to Dubai, I used to speak quite quickly and my accent was a little bit thicker. So I quickly realized that I needed to kind of work and navigate around that, work on the way that I communicate. And because I used to answer the phone, I used to say, hello, Andy Taylor. But I used to say it really quick. So I used to say, hello, Auntie Taylor. And then someone said, it sounds like you're saying Auntie. I'm saying, no, I'm saying Andy. So then I got the nickname Auntie for the last 5 years from some of my old co-workers. So I think that was a small thing for me, but it did show to me that, you've got to remember the way you communicate. You're in a new environment. Your accent needs to be taken into consideration sometimes.
We love you, Auntie. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. And I hope that you are ready to answer the next question, because we're staying with you. And this one goes to you, Andrew. It comes from Pablo, and he's asking, which assumptions you had about work-life balance that was proven wrong during a relocation? What did you not know before and learn during a relocation?
So for this, so the UK, I think, tends to have pretty good work-life balance, and I never remember, feeling exhausted from work or missing an event too often because I was working late. And I imagined, maybe naively, that Dubai, because it's beaches and everyone's having fun, that it would be similar. But I found that Dubai, although once you get into a rhythm and you're kind of ingrained and more established, you do get that work-life balance. But very early on, I found the work-life balance was a lot harder in Dubai. And I think the main reason for that is because in Dubai, they will first probably look at the local community and see, okay, can anyone within the community, because Dubai is very heavy on expats, fit this role? And if not, they'll go elsewhere. So as a person relocating, sometimes the companies I worked for did expect you as you were almost like a specialist coming in. So they're paying for you to come over, move over, and they expected me to hit the ground running. So it was quite heavy at first, but then once you've settled in, it's fine. But I think that's always something to consider, because when you are relocating and when companies are looking, they're not looking inside anymore because something doesn't work for that. So you're almost being brought over as an expert to kind of hit the ground running and get started straight away.
Yeah, they put in their efforts and resources to bring you there, and they have some of the expectation that things would just work on the fly super, super fast. This is true. It's really important to share this. So thank you very much, Andrew. Pamela, the next question is super challenging. And it's super interesting. And it's as relevant to relocation as can be. And it comes from Harrison. And he's asking, how did you take care of yourself during this period of transition? Relocating can be stressful, and it can affect our mental and emotional well-being. How did you do it?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, one thing was to be quite honest with family and friends. So I was quite open when I needed my space, and quite open to ask for help when I needed to. Once you are in a new environment, you know, the time zone is different. You have a lot of things to do. So make sure you have boundaries. And the expectation should be, especially at the start, that your family and friends support you more than you are supporting them. Another thing that I think is essential is to make sure that you carve time for fun and enjoying your new local area, creating those kind of relationship and support group, because that is the thing that in the end of the line was gonna, you know, is gonna give you enjoyment in the new place, and it's not just work. And the last thing I was gonna say, just be patient. It's gonna be tough, and it's you know, we can't sugarcoat the reality of the fact that, especially if you move to a culture that's very different, the language is not your own, it's going to be tough at the start. So you need to make sure that you do kind of like don't overwhelm yourself, and you just take time to just go to the theater, go for a walk, and really like enjoy, and don't overwhelm yourself with too many tasks or too many goals.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Make it work, but don't be.
Make it work.
Yeah, but don't make it too hard on yourself. I love that. And give things time, because you need time to make things happen. This is a really, really good one. And we will continue with you, because our new chapter here in this streaming, in this webinar, is the question that was not asked. Like the questions that you thought the audience is about to ask you, but this question did not come yet. And Pamela, I'm sure you had a really good question that you missed from the audience. So tell us, what is your question that was not asked?
To me, is because one of the most important things that I said since the beginning is support group. The question is how to build a support network that will be there for you. For me, one of the things that I did at the start was actually joining meetup groups. So I used to go on language exchange, so going in places where people speak English, but they want to learn Italian. So you have that fun part where you just like talk about with strangers about like your own culture, where you're from, and that is fun, as well as you know, get you a chance to leave the room and you know, the house, and meeting people. And the other thing is, for me, was actually start to, especially with the pandemic, kind of like get to know your local area and get friendly with neighbors. Just getting to the neighbors and just like bring something to them, then you have that very strong support group, and you're really going to be really helpful if you need someone to take a package, or if you need someone to suddenly, I don't know, feed your cat because you maybe need to go, you know, somewhere for a couple of days. So it's always is very important. And the last suggestion in terms of creating a support group, you have to be deliberate. Andrew said it earlier, friendship is not going to come, especially later in life, like suddenly. It's not you going to uni and everyone is going to be friendly with you. You go in a place of work where everyone has got, you know, a lot of things to do, they have families, so to fit in their schedule is going to be tough. So making sure that you're deliberate, ask them for coffee when that is best suit them, and having that sort of like deliberate message of like, I'm trying to build my support network, and yeah, just keep iterating on that. And at some point you're gonna have a very big support network of friends. And especially if you like sport like Andrew, I actually myself, I like play soccer. That is a really good easy thing to do, because you're gonna join a club, and is outside work, everyone enjoy themselves, and yeah, you're just gonna build something wonderful.
I love that. Sometimes in the PM life, there is user acquisition, and sometimes there is friends acquisition. This is life.
Correct.
Relocation life. Thank you very much, Pamela. Andrew. The question.
Yeah, so I think the question. Yes, so for my question, I would say kind of what is the single, or it's kind of two now, so the most useful tip that I would get, or someone would give to settling in as quick as possible. I think, as Pamela said, is it's kind of throwing yourself out there, saying yes to as many opportunities. I really do believe creating that core support group or network of people that you can trust and rely on is super key at the start, because very quickly in a month, you're probably going to have questions about. So in Dubai, for example, I was looking to get a house, but then there's a certain set of processes you need to go through. You need to understand the market a little bit, tips for kind of moving in. And as Gilad said as well, making yourself a little bit vulnerable and asking for help helps with that. People will know if you say, I'm new, people will then kind of latch onto that and be like, do you want to go grab a coffee? Like, people naturally want to help other people. And then it instills it on you yourself as well. So then you start helping out other people.
Yeah, and everyone want to feel like they know their place. So it's like about showing you the best restaurants and best bars around because they want to feel like, you know, they're local. So absolutely lovely, lovely tip. So thank you very much, Andrew, for this one. Gilad, the question that was not asked, and you really want to ask this one.
Yeah. So before I will, just one more point on something Andrew reminded me of. When you're showing vulnerability, make sure you're giving people examples of how you see stuff in your own culture. Be explicit about that, as in tell them, hey, I just read the situation in the room. Here's how I understood what happened behind the scenes. Am I reading it correctly? Be extremely explicit, because when you say, hey, help me, people want to help. But when you tell them, this is what I saw, it helps people connect wires in their brain saying, yeah, so you're not getting this piece. The explicit example in the US for me was it was an interview question. It's the most famous interview question in PM interviews. It's tell me about a product that you love and how would you improve it? And I kept on answering that question with giving ways of improving it. And which is typical. And then a good friend of mine told me at some point when I walked her through this, she said, look, the problem is that you're not thinking about the people who actually built this product to begin with. Here's the real answer you want to give in the US. Well, I'm sure you guys have already thought of this. And there are many considerations that went into the decision making that was done. As an external spectator with partial information, answer. And that small twist, once I gave her the scenario and how I'm reading it, that's how she was able to help me. So make sure you give it. So sorry for going down a different path. Now I'll go back to the question that's not asked. And that is, well, okay, so fine, you relocated. You're now in the new place, and you've been there for a bit. Let's say 6 months, a year, 7 years. What actually ends up happening with your family, your life, when you're starting to ask additional questions? And you will. So first thing first, you are going to run into the question of, should I move back now? That is going to come up. Quite frankly, it's probably going to be in the background at all points in time, and you should be aware of it. So I'll give a tip on that one. Never live your life as a temporary life. Even if you're there for, I don't know, a year, make sure that within that year you live your life at its fullest, as if you're going to live there for life, because you don't want to live your life on suitcases. You don't want to live temporary life. We see those pictures behind me. We have a rule. We go into a new house, we are putting pictures up on the walls. This is our place. This is not a temporary location. And then knowing that it's there, knowing that that this question is always going to be in the background, pop it up from time to time, make an explicit decision, and then say we're going to stick with this decision until new information comes in for at least a year, so you have some horizon. It'll help, because it'll help you with shopping. If you're deciding to buy a new bed, again, the personal example, if you're deciding to buy a new bed, but we might be moving back, and should we really buy a new bed right now? Guys, it's your backs that will hurt you if you don't do it with a bed or any other type of purchase. So remember to invest in yourself and make that decision explicit, so that it won't be an implicit thing that stays in your mind.
Great, great stuff. I love that. Thank you very much, Gilad. And now, just before we are closing, this streaming, this webinar actually has two personas or, viewers types in mind. On one hand, we have the people with consider relocating to a new place as product managers. And on the other hand, we have people that may have new team members joining their team from another geography, from another team, someone who is relocating to their office. And Victoria in the audience is first saying, "Hi, Pamela, great to see you again. Miss our days of working at Digital." And her question, thank you very much, Victoria, for this one is, what can colleagues do to support peers who have relocated? I love this one. This one goes to the teams. And I hope that everyone will keep it in mind in case someone is relocating to join their team. So, Pamela, Victoria is saying hi, so we will ask you to start.
Well, hi, Victoria. Great you're following today. I mean, for me, it will be going back to empathy. If you know someone is relocated, just try to be aware that they might make mistake and they might not be aware of that. So just make sure that you maybe pass on the feedback, even if it's not asked directly. You try to be kind to provide that sort of feedback on a private setting, and make sure that they know that they can, maybe rely on you and you can actually offer your support. Some people will take the offer, some people will not, but just the fact that you're there and open your door, I think will be quite welcome to them. They will make them feel that you're inclusive, and you're gonna have an ally just for asking the question and offering your support.
I love that. Kindness is a big one. Thank you very much, Pamela. Andrew.
Yeah, I think kind of what Pamela was saying, really, just empathy and asking and making them as involved as possible, really. So making them feel as welcome as possible, helping them out with the same questions that you probably had when you joined, and just being there in case they ever need anything, whether that is just saying hello to them in the morning, grabbing them a coffee or something, or just kind of making them feel welcome as part of the team.
I love that. Be there and make them feel welcome on the team. This is a really, really important one. Sometimes the simplest acts go a long, long way. So thank you very much, Andrew. Gilad.
Try to read the cues. Try to see if things don't click for those people, or if something seems off. Try to read them early, and in a one-on-one situation, try and give them the space to share and be explicit about what you're noticing and how you could help them early on.
Really good one. Thank you very much, Gilad. And this is it. Our webinar is closing now. Thank you very much, Pamela, product manager at Adobe and 3 times Product League alumna, for joining us from London. Gilad Tulban from San Francisco, manager product management at Meta, and 3 times Product League mentor. Thank you very much for joining us. And Andrew Tyler, product manager at Majid Al Futtaim from Dubai, Product League alumnus. So happy to have you here with us. Thank you, guys. You've been amazing. Loved every second of hearing about your experiences, about your stories. You gave our audience some hope and some things to think about. So thank you very much for that. How was it for you?
Amazing.
Yeah,
hopefully
brilliant.
more people will take the leap. Do it.
Yes. Well, you showed them that it's possible, right? And this is a big deal. It's possible. Thank you very much, Leaguers. See you here next time and have a fantastic day ahead. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, folks.
Faster,
Thank you.
This is user-friendly
and there's
enough
a lot of things that are not even
for people that are not
connected to our
developers.
career necessarily, but